Microsoft is going to be closing more studios and letting more people go after Arkane Austin and Tango Gameworks just yesterday, and they're considering not putting Call of Duty onto Game Pass day one. At least according to Tom Warren from The Verge. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, I'm Bobby here with Direct Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about Tom Warren's article in The Verge called Inside Microsoft's Xbox Turmoil. As always, leave a like and subscribe if you're new here and you enjoy this video. So let's get right into it. Tom Warren from The Verge writes, just hours after learning that Microsoft was shutting down a number of game studios this week, Dinga Bakaba, head of Microsoft-owned Arkane Lyon, decided to let the company know how he felt about the decision. Right in public. Quote, don't throw us into gold fervor gambits, don't use us as strawmen for miscalculations / blind spots, don't make our work environment Darwinist jungles, end quote, Bakaba wrote on X, formerly Twitter. Bakaba, whose studio wasn't impacted by the layoffs this week, said his message was aimed at, quote, any executive reading this, end quote, including the leaders behind the latest round of layoffs. It was a rare public display of criticism, but sources at Microsoft tell me it reflects a growing discontent and fear among Xbox employees about what comes next. Microsoft's latest round of layoffs shocked both employees and fans. Arkane Austin's big Redfall update was on the way with a new offline mode, and the DLC was being worked on just hours before the studio was closed. The shutdown of Tango Gameworks, the studio behind Hi-Fi Rush, has surprised most people. The game was considered an Xbox hit, winning praise among critics and making its way to PS5 earlier this year. Even Microsoft was happy with Hi-Fi Rush. Quote, Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for us and our players in all key measurements and expectations, end quote, said Aaron Greenberg, head of Xbox Games Marketing, just a year ago. Quote, we couldn't be happier with what the team at Tango Gameworks delivered with this surprise release, end quote. Greenberg and Xbox chief Phil Spencer both visited Tango Gameworks in September, playing games with the team and posing for group photos. Now the studio is the latest victim of layoffs that have rocked the game industry over the past 18 months. 3 Bethesda studios, Arkane Austin, Tango Gameworks, and AlphaDog Games are being shuttered, and the team at Roadhouse Studios is moving into ZeniMax Online Studios. The studio closures come less than 6 months after Microsoft laid off 1,900 Activision Blizzard and Xbox employees, and just months after Sony closed some of its own game studios and laid off around 900 employees. The depressing list of layoffs at game studios continues to grow on a weekly basis, with GTA 6 and BioShock publisher Take-Two laying off hundreds of employees last month and cutting projects. Inside Xbox, there's now uncertainty about what the future holds and questions over Microsoft's gaming strategy. While Microsoft is looking toward a more PC-like future for its Xbox console, the company continues to battle a slowdown in Game Pass subscribers, lackluster Xbox console sales, and game launch delays. A combination of these events led to 4 previously Xbox exclusive games launching on the PS5 recently, and some landing on the Nintendo Switch. I reported earlier this year that Microsoft had been considering bringing Gears of War to rival consoles, and we're still waiting to see if the long-rumored Gears of War collection is ever confirmed. Either way, I'm still expecting to see more Xbox games arrive on PS5 and Switch, and it will be interesting to see if the Xbox Game Showcase in June includes any new announcements for rival hardware. Microsoft has also had internal debates about whether to put new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass. I understand this is a debate that has been ongoing internally for quite some time, with some concerns that some of the revenue that Call of Duty typically generates for Activision Blizzard will be undermined by Game Pass. I'm told that Microsoft has also considered increasing the price of Game Pass Ultimate again. These are only considerations, so a final decision could mean we still see a future Call of Duty release appear in most versions of Game Pass. The debate internally reflects the fact that Microsoft's Xbox strategy has shifted from just delivering its games exclusively into Game Pass to considering bringing more Xbox games to multiple platforms. In yesterday's memo from Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, there was a hint of reprioritization for Bethesda teams that we may well see elsewhere with Xbox. Quote, these changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles and further investing into Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games, end quote, said Booty, before noting that Xbox is doubling down on Bethesda franchises that are, quote, best positioned for success, end quote. Did Hi-Fi Rush really not meet that bar? Now, there will be inevitable questions about what other Xbox games aren't, quote, best positioned for success, end quote. Xbox now has a strong lineup of games planned for 2024, with Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 set to debut in a matter of weeks on May 21st. I understand Hellblade 2 is another game that Microsoft has been considering for the PS5. If that ever happens at this point, it's not clear even if that would be considered a success. Xbox employees are now bracing for what's next, as it seems unlikely that we've seen the last of Microsoft's gaming layoffs and cutbacks. There are whispers among employees that core Xbox game studios are set for cutbacks next. Last month, Microsoft reported that Xbox hardware revenue was down by 31% year over year, and an obvious admission that this was, quote, driven by lower volume of consoles sold, end quote. Last year, Microsoft reported a 30% drop in Xbox hardware revenue, blaming, quote, increased console supply, end quote, from the prior year in 2022. Sony PS5 sales have also slowed, but not like Microsoft's. While Xbox hardware sales are a cause for concern, Microsoft has been beating the Xbox Game Pass drum in recent years, telling us, quote, the Xbox business isn't how many consoles you sell, end quote, but Microsoft's latest earnings showed that Xbox content and services, which include Game Pass, would only have been up a single % without Activision Blizzard, and overall gaming revenue would have declined without this giant acquisition. Microsoft CFO Amy Hood is now expecting the Xbox hardware revenues to decline again next quarter. Microsoft's gaming business isn't growing without Activision Blizzard right now, and how that plays out to 2024 will be key for all Xbox studios. Microsoft has a busy fall ahead for Xbox, with Bethesda currently targeting September for its Starfield expansion Shattered Space. Activision plans the next Call of Duty for late October, and Avowed and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 likely to follow in November. To top all that off, Indiana Jones is currently planned for December. If Microsoft Game Studios can deliver all of these games on time, then there will be plenty to play on Xbox this holiday, with a new Gears of War title expected to be announced during this Xbox Summer Showcase, alongside some release dates for other anticipated Xbox games. Microsoft will be banking on some new game announcements lifting the doom around Xbox, but the company's gaming strategy still looks unclear, and the challenges run deeper than a handful of holiday launches. So obviously there's a lot to talk about with this article, and Tom Warren is a person who, you know, even though he does have a tendency to lean towards the Xbox side, and if I remember correctly, he was one of those people saying, hey, that acquisition, no problem for me. But even he is starting to see the problems that are arising at Xbox from this acquisition going through, and the fact that now Microsoft is coming for that money. They want that money back. And before, Xbox could kind of get away with just skirting by, and they didn't ever ask for anything more than what they needed to make the next Halo or Gears or Forza or what have you. But now we're seeing them asking for money to buy Bethesda, money to buy Activision, right? The biggest gaming acquisition in history, one that tons of people were opposed to because we knew this kind of thing was going to happen. Now that Microsoft has control of so much IP, so many studios, they can just shut them down whenever they're not performing up to a hugely profitable standard. And that raises a lot of questions about what's happening in the future with this company, because in just a few weeks, Hellblade 2 drops, and this was mentioned in the article. Hellblade 2 has had almost no marketing. There is no buzz around it. If you're not one of those people who isn't super privy on Xbox all the time, you probably have no idea Hellblade is even coming, even though that was one of those titles that was shown off at the Xbox Series release announcement. Like, it was so hyped that there was going to be something that was going to show off this brand new, most powerful console that had ever been built. But now we're worried about whether or not Ninja Theory is going to be around in a year. And I said this yesterday in the video about Arkane and Tango. If you're not delivering a mega hit right now, it looks like you might be on the chopping block. One of the other things is that this game is not going to be helped by Game Pass. And we talked about this yesterday. This game is already something that is going to be really niche. A lot of people played the first one, but I guarantee a lot of people put it down and are like, no, I'm not playing a second one. I'm not playing a second version of that game. It's pretty intense. So that's likely why they're considering releasing it to the PlayStation fan base, is just in an effort to get any more profit from this IP than they know they're going to get from Xbox having access to it through Game Pass. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if in the June showcase, which is right after the release of Hellblade 2, we see an announcement for this to go to PlayStation 5 in 6 months or a year or something like that. Now, speaking of Game Pass and its effect on everything, the fact that we may see Call of Duty not get new releases put into Game Pass is probably the single most damning indictment of the Game Pass is profitable, Game Pass is sustainable argument that I think I have seen yet. There is no way that you can tell me in good conscience that Game Pass is sustainable and that it is profitable at a rate that makes Microsoft happy when they are seriously considering, from the sound of it, taking off Call of Duty from Game Pass day one. Remember, this is just 3 months after the Xbox Business Update podcast thing that they did, where Sarah Bond very, very bluntly said, we will continue putting all first-party Xbox games day one onto Game Pass. Now, I understand from a business standpoint why you absolutely would not want to do that. Game Pass is value destructive. I mean, we heard Jim Ryan say it. We heard the FTC say it. We heard Directive been saying this for years as well. There is no way that you can be making an insane amount of profit just because we know gamers and we know our own habits. Like, I have Game Pass, but if there's ever any kind of gap for months, I just let it lapse and I don't check it out again until there's a new game. Then I'll get it for a month and then I stop. So maybe for all these games that they release, maybe they get $60 a year from me because I'll have it for maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year. And that's if I get Game Pass Ultimate. And again, I get mine from CD keys, so like it's half the price, and I don't even know if Microsoft gets money for that. So it is what it is, because that's the value that they've really told me that whole ecosystem is worth. Is just like get it at the lowest price you can, because that's what they're trying to convince me to do. They don't want me to buy their games, right? I've purchased a few games that I've played on Game Pass, but not Microsoft games, because I know they'll always be there, because that's the point of Game Pass. If I really want to go back and play Starfield after a bunch of updates, I can just go to Game Pass and I can get it for a month and go, oh man, it's been like 2 years since I played Starfield. They removed a lot of the loading sections. They've added a lot of new quests, and they just now finally put a map system in from what I'm hearing. And you know, if I want to check it out, I'm just going to go and get a CD key for Game Pass for a month and check it out, and maybe play on my computer, maybe play on Steam Deck a little bit through the cloud, and then I'll put it down and not pay for Game Pass for another 3 to 4 months. And trust me, I guarantee you there's a lot of people like me, right? I know my brother will probably buy Call of Duty, and him and his friends will play it, and he'll be like, oh man, you should get on it. And if it's on Game Pass, I'll be like, yeah, I'll check it out. And, you know, might as well pay that $8 for the CD keys version of Game Pass and get on there and play a few rounds, and then, you know, get my kicks with buddies. And then, yeah, when they stop playing, I just let it lapse and don't buy Game Pass again. This is a market reality that Xbox is facing. And so we're hearing them not wanting to put Call of Duty on this. And this is breaking one of the biggest promises of the Activision Blizzard King acquisition in the first place. And one of the things that I saw tons of Xbox fans going, we're getting Call of Duty day one Game Pass. You know, you better deal with it. You're a pony because you don't like Game Pass. I go, Game Pass just doesn't make sense. From a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense. There's no way it can be profitable the way they say. And we're seeing that now. The other thing they're saying is, hey, maybe we will keep it, but we're going to put it on Game Pass Ultimate, right? That might be the idea. Hey, you got to have Game Pass Ultimate. Oh, and by the way, it's $24.99 now, which I wish I had the time to go back through and find it. But there was a video last year where I think I said this exact thing. I said they're going to just increase it. It's going to be like 20, 25 bucks a month. And then maybe you'll get Call of Duty if you're willing to pay that. But overall, this is just looking like a huge loss for everyone who fought for that Activision Blizzard deal, hoping that Call of Duty was going to be something they get on Game Pass for, you know, $8 a month, $10 a month, whatever you pay for Game Pass. Now, outside of all of this, with Call of Duty, as bad as that is, what's even worse is the fact that they're talking about having more layoffs coming in the future. And this is one of those things that, you know, it's looking unavoidable. Now, I actually saw someone yesterday, and I don't remember who it was. I wish it was. I think it was on Twitter, but they said something about how, if you think about it, Xbox has not been profitable. Activision was profitable. So now Activision is floating everything for Xbox, right? You think, oh man, Xbox's profits went up. Well, now Activision has to pay for itself, but it also has to pay for Bethesda. It has to pay for the Coalition and 343 and all, like everything else under Xbox right now has to be paid for by the profits that are coming from Activision. Because I guarantee you, after spending $70 billion, Satya Nadella is like, okay, you better make it happen now. With that, you have the property. There's no more money that's going to be coming down. There's no more blank checks for Phil to spend a bunch of money. And I thought that was just so insightful. I was like, man, I hadn't even thought of that. The fact that Activision now, as big as Activision is and as much money as they make, now if Microsoft's going, okay, well, that's what's going to make you the money to operate, so you better make it work. That would really explain why there's a lot of overhead trying to be cut right now. And remember, one of the easiest things to cut in a company when you need to cut expenses is overhead of people, right? People take a lot of money with salaries, benefits for family, stuff like that. All that stuff adds up to a lot of money that's easily cut in the eyes of executives. Even though we hate to see it, that's the business reality of it. But hearing that now there's a lot of other layoffs coming, we're hearing that, oh, hey, people are seeing that, you know, Xbox might not be the place they want to work. And they're wondering like, oh, if I do this game and even if it sells well, like Hi-Fi Rush apparently did, met all the metrics, sold well, they said, you can still be shut down. And then you're just out of a job after you did an awesome work. And then Microsoft continues to sell your game and continues to profit off of your hard work, just making sure that you're not profiting off it in any way. The fact that there are the whispers and rumors of, you know, internal Xbox game studios getting cutbacks, right? We just saw a report come out from Jeff Grubb where he's saying that Perfect Dark is not looking very good, which means the Initiative, I believe, is the studio working on that with Crystal Dynamics. That's probably going to get pared back quite a bit. There's no chance if that game's in a rough state. I mean, it could just get canceled. We also see that, you know, Halo Infinite has been winding down. It's basically said our main support for the game is over. So why would they keep all those people around? I guarantee we're going to see some layoffs in 343. And if we don't see anything with Gears pretty quick here, which I think we will, you know, there's been a lot of rumor that something big Gears is coming. But if that doesn't deliver, man, what happens to the coalition? If Indiana Jones comes out and it's like, it did okay, like what happens to Machine Games? I mean, we don't know anymore because now it's looking like Microsoft is coming to collect on that 70 billion like now. And this is one of those things that, you know, the business reality of it is that everybody always said, Xbox, they've got unlimited money. They're a $3 trillion company. Sony doesn't have anything. Nintendo doesn't have anything. They can't even compare to Microsoft and Xbox. Microsoft is cutthroat. They are like mercenaries. They do not care. They want their money. And Satya Nadella gave Phil Spencer $70 billion. And if you count Bethesda, that's getting close to $80 billion in the last 5 years for acquisitions. They want to see return on that. They want to see it now. And I guarantee you that's what's led to this multi-plat thing. That's what's led to this strategy of, hey, we got to cut as many studios as quickly as we can. We don't need studios developing anything risky. Hi-Fi Rush was risky. Redfall was kind of like a, hey, live service safe bet when it probably started. But unfortunately, the public sentiment turned against live services. And me, I'll play just about any live service. And I thought Redfall played like ass. Like that game was terrible. And I played like hundreds of hours of the Avengers and Anthem. Like I will play just about any looter shooter because I like looter shooters, but Redfall just felt so bad to play. But I said in our video on the closure of Arkane and Tango that I don't blame Arkane for that. They didn't want to make that. ZeniMax forced them, and then Xbox bought them and didn't even ask them, hey, what's going on with the project you guys are working on? They're just like, hey, cool, Redfall? Yeah, we're going to take it. That's going to be the game we put out. Cool, we're going to make it seem like it's going to be a Game of the Year contender. They put a bunch of marketing behind it, and then ooh, it came out and was one of the worst received games of last year, sadly only overshadowed by Gollum and that King Kong game. And I don't blame Arkane Austin for that. Like there should have been a leadership thing where Microsoft stepped in, asked everybody, hey, what are you working on? How do you feel about it? What can we do? Like, is there something that you need from us as your new leadership? Like, is everybody feeling good with this project? Do we need people in different places? What's happening? And I guarantee you Arkane Austin would have stepped up like the devs and gone like, hey, we don't want to make this. Like we just don't feel like it's good. They knew it was going to be bad, right? They said it. They knew it was going to be a disaster. And nobody at Microsoft said, oh, hey, you guys think this game's going to work? No, okay. Phil just kind of glossed over everything. And that's one of the things that I've talked about for a long time. We see Matt Booty, we see Phil Spencer. These guys have kept their jobs despite fumble after fumble after fumble after fumble that has caused other studios and devs who actually work hard to make these games to get their livelihoods taken away from them. Incredible studios being shut down, and it's because of leadership. And at this point, if you work for Microsoft in any capacity at Xbox, you can't be feeling good about what your job prospects look like, basically, unless you're part of Activision making Call of Duty, because they know that's going to sell, or maybe making Candy Crush. They know that's going to sell. They don't have any qualms about that. They'll be fine. Anything else right now is in danger of being shut down, in my opinion. And I would say even up to Bethesda. Like if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and it's like a lukewarm reaction, kind of like Starfield was, and it doesn't get a ton of sales, I guarantee you they're going to have serious thoughts about just closing Bethesda down. And then we'll have like a legendary studio that let itself get swallowed up by one of the biggest conglomerates in the world, just shut down because they made games that weren't, you know, selling great because they gave them no opportunity to succeed by putting their games on Game Pass. It's really just a shame that Microsoft is the one who controls Xbox, and that Xbox set up this whole thing as it is, because now it's looking like you're just gonna get put into being a Call of Duty studio, or you better make a blockbuster. If you're not making a blockbuster, get out. But let me ask, what do you think about this Xbox news? Because like this is even worse than Arkane and Tango, in my opinion. Like we're getting to the point where it's feeling like everything they're doing, it just involves lying to the consumer and dismantling any sort of goodwill they had with like the studios that came underneath them. Right? We just saw Blizzard go like, hey, we're feeling confident. There's an interview that Blizzard said, we're feeling confident about how, you know, Microsoft is letting us do our thing, but guarantee you Blizzard makes anything that doesn't go gangbusters, Microsoft's gonna be like, okay, Blizzard, see you later. We're shutting you down. And then, you know, we don't have the studio that made like Overwatch and World of Warcraft. And say what you want about those games nowadays, those games are legendary. They are trailblazing games in their genre. This is a bad part of consolidation. So what do you think about this? Let us know in the comments, and we'd love to talk to you about this. Again, I'm Bobby here. And like I said, if you enjoyed this video, if you like having these discussions with us, leave a like and subscribe to the videos, because we try and put out stuff. We put out game guides, we put out discussions and news videos like this as often as we can. Talon and I love to, you know, talk with you guys. And make sure you follow us on Twitter. The channel is @59direct. You can follow that, or you can follow my personal at Little Bobby TV, or Talon at Gaming Talon. And we talk about, you know, games and stuff, and meme and troll on Twitter about, you know, bad news all day, every day. So yeah, follow us on there if you want to talk to us more. Hey, thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you soon.